Welcome to Arirang News. It's Tuesday, April 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Sean Lim, and thank you for joining us for our ongoing coverage of the search and rescue operation of the sunken ferry off Korea's southwest coast. It's now the 7th day of operations to find those aboard the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. Rescue teams are doing everything they can at the site of the accident in the hope of finding any survivors. However, so far, only dead bodies have been recovered. The death toll, which is rising fast, broke the 100 mark earlier today. Let's go straight to our Hwang Sung-hee at the Paengmokang Harbor, just 20 kilometers away from the accident site. Sung-hee, fill us in on the latest.
Sean, as you mentioned, the confirmed death toll is rising rapidly, and it currently stands at 117. Now, many of the bodies have yet to be identified, but they do come with very, very detailed descriptions like what they were wearing, the length of their hair, and even the shape of their earrings. Family members of the missing have been camping out here at the Paengmokang Harbor for days, and now they are gathered in front of that list trying to match the descriptions with their own children. Now, with the quick rising death toll, more and more families seem to be filling the Paengmokang Harbor. It is a heartbreaking sight to see as parents break down into tears when it is confirmed that a body is their child. A temporary funeral parlor that holds some 180 bodies has been set up here at the harbor. Sean?
And I understand that some disappointed parents of the deceased are complaining that rescue efforts could have been faster. Do they think that could have really made a difference?
Yes, they are lashing out against the government, saying that their children lost their lives due to the government's slow response to the ferry disaster, and they are going to request an autopsy of the bodies to determine the exact cause of the deaths. Now, nearly 200 people still remain missing inside that sunken ship, and some 90% of those are believed to be from Danon High School. The rescue team, meanwhile, will continue their search and rescue operations throughout the night, and they are expecting favorable conditions because today is the start of the neap tide, which is when the tides are at their lowest. This was Hwang Sung-hee reporting live from Paengmokang Harbor.
Sung-hee, thank you. Now let's move on to the latest search strategy in locating the missing passengers of the Sewol-ho ferry. Operations are focusing on the 3rd and 4th floors, where experts believe most of the bodies will be found in the ship's cafeteria. For details, let's turn to our Kim Hyun-bin, who's standing by at the Central Disaster and Safety Headquarters on Jindo Island. Hyun-bin, what's going on over there?
Hey, Sean, the spokesperson on Tuesday afternoon said that the search team had recovered 22 additional bodies from the 3rd and 4th floor of the vessel today, in addition to the 23 bodies that was recovered on Monday. Most of the victims retrieved over the past 2 days were high school students who were in the ferry's lounge when the vessel capsized. He added that a lot of uncovered bodies are thought to be located in the cafeteria of the vessel, as it was breakfast time when the ferry started listing. That area is going to be the next place divers enter. Today, 239 vessels, 32 aircraft, and over 750 divers were deployed for the search operation. Back to you, Sean.
Yeah, the international community is reaching out to help in this time of need. How so?
Well, the U.S. Defense Department said Monday that it will dispatch a Navy Savage ship to South Korea to recover the ferry when the operation gets to that stage. South Korea has not formally requested for the ship, but is currently being moved from Thailand. The ship is designed to repair or salvage ship crippled in combat anywhere around the world. The rescue team also successfully dispatched 2 remotely operated underwater vehicles from the United States for the first time, and 3 experts from the Netherlands are scheduled to help as well. Korean authorities have also asked China to borrow barges and cranes. This has been Kim Hyun-bin reporting live at Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures headquarters in Jindo.
Well, aside from the search and rescue operation, the big question is what happened inside the Sewol-ho ferry right before it capsized. Investigators are still trying to figure that out, but have unlocked one piece of evidence that may help uncover others. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
For 3 minutes and 36 seconds after 8:48 Wednesday morning, the tracking record for the Sewol-ho ferry was apparently not connected and not providing information. But the Ministry of Fisheries has restored the record using data from the Mokpo Automatic Identification System-based station. It shows nothing in the first 36 seconds, and a ministry official said that the Sewol-ho ferry could have experienced a blackout during this time. They believe the AIS device might have been disconnected for that period of time, but restored later using emergency batteries. After that missing 36-second period passes, the tracking record shows that the Sewol-ho ferry has slowly started turning starboard and then abruptly turned 45 degrees. The official says the events probably unfolded after the ship veered suddenly. At the time of the accident, the ferry was traveling at a normal speed of 17 knots and was about to turn the stern 10 degrees heading into a treacherous waterway. The Maritime Ministry added that they need to investigate further to see if the capsize was caused due to the reduced dynamic stability of the vessel. If there was an electrical blackout, it could indicate a defect on the ferry and another possible cause of the accident. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
It's now been documented that when the Sewol-ho ferry first ran into trouble, most of its passengers followed the instructions given to them by the ship's crew and stayed put inside the ship. This piece of information has confounded foreign maritime experts who say that decision and the indecisiveness on the part of the captain and crew likely doomed hundreds on board. Our Yu Lian has the details.
Maritime experts describe the announcements on the Sewol-ho ferry instructing people to stay in their rooms at the time of the accident as totally incomprehensible.
In 99.9% cases, the crew is on top of it. They are well trained and they are able to evacuate the ship in plenty of time.
The retired Commodore says it is unacceptable that the captain completely failed in his duties to take control during the crucial moments after the accident.
Key decisions should be made within the captain's mind within 5 to 10 minutes. As soon as he gets a report from all departments of the ship and assesses how much damage is done to the vessel itself.
Logs show that the captain of the Sewol-ho ferry, Lee Jun-seok, delayed evacuation for at least 30 minutes after the ship began to capsize. Others say the announcement telling people to stay where they were actually made the situation worse. Mario Vittone, a former U.S. Coast Guard maritime accident investigator, says if those announcements were not made, the passengers would have gone to the deck to see what was going on. Thad Allen, the former head of the U.S. Coast Guard, also says common sense dictates that when a situation is deteriorating, the crew needs to give up on trying to save the ship and pour efforts into saving the passengers. Yu Lian, Arirang News.
Let's now explore the latest findings about the structure and load of the vessel, which many experts say could have led to the Sewol-ho's capsizing. For more, we connect with Arirang News' Song Ji-sun in the news center. Ji-sun, it seems that the ferry operator put its passenger safety in jeopardy by loading up on more lucrative commercial cargo.
That's right. A set of evidence showed that the operator did not abide by the rules needed to guarantee the ship's safety. Now take a look at the layout of the Sewol-ho ferry on the screen. If you look at the structure of the ship, the lowest level houses the engine and a ballast tank where water for balancing the vessel must be loaded before departure. The company had expanded its cabin capacity to allow for more passengers, and authorities approved the renovation under one condition, that the company increase the amount of water in the tank to secure its balance. The Sewol-ho ferry can only load cargo of less than 1,000 tons and must load balancing water of 2,000 tons due to renovations which elevated ship's center of gravity by half a meter. But according to inspection data released by opposition lawmaker Kim Hyun-bin today, over 3,600 tons of cargo, including 180 vehicles, were on board the sunken ferry. Whether the operator abided by that rule is now in question, since more water on board means more fuel is needed for the 6,800-ton vessel. Fuel, of course, costs money, and it's not a stretch to think that cash-strapped company may have cut corners to maximize its profits. Another piece of evidence that supports this theory is that the ship sank upside down, suggesting there was more air in the bottom level of the vessel than water in the ballast tank.
So the operator may have traded the ship's balance with revenue from transporting cargo. What other evidence backs this theory?
Well, it turns out that the revenue from shipping cargo was a cash cow for the company, which was suffering from operating losses in the slumping shipping industry. According to an audit report of Cheongjin Marine Company, its cargo profits continued to rise, eventually exceeding passenger shipping revenue. That amounted to $19 million in 2013, up more than 70% from 4 years earlier. On the other hand, revenue from transporting passengers had been dropping. Tourism experts say it has to do with the recent rise in low airfare operators that now fly from most major cities on the peninsula to Jeju Island. Cheongjin had been operating 4 lines, 2 of which had been traveling between Incheon and Jeju Island. All of the company's operations, however, have been suspended since the Sewol-ho ferry disaster last week.
Show us the area that rescuers are focusing their search on right now.
Right, let's now take a look inside the cabin where rescue teams are now focusing most of their efforts overnight. The 3rd and 4th floors are where the most passengers were expected to be present at the moment of the accident, between 8 and 9 a.m. last Wednesday morning, as it was breakfast time. Divers are also searching for the 4th floor of the ferry, where the cabins for the most of the Danwon High School students were located. At this point, the vessel lies at an almost 90-degree angle from the floor plan after sinking upside down to touch the ground underwater.
What's the latest with the investigation into the operator?
Prosecutors have imposed travel bans on 30 additional officials related to Cheongjin Marine Company. The prosecution is also looking into whether the operator's management and the family which owns the company have evaded taxes or embezzled funds by making illegal overseas transactions. In the meantime, the Oceans Ministry is currently looking into revoking the ferry operator's shipping business license. We'll have more details in our later newscast. Back to you.
Thank you, Ji-sun. Now, the Sewol-ho ferry disaster has raised serious questions about safety awareness as a whole here in Korea. Authorities have vowed to punish those responsible for the accident to the full extent of the law. However, records show that in Korea, those who violate maritime regulations often get away with just a warning or a slap on the wrist. Connie Lee has more.
Coast Guard officials flip over a boat after knocking on it in search of survivors. 7 crew members were found dead in this hit-and-run accident. This happened last year in March in the same waters where the Sewol-ho ferry incident took place. And just about 2 weeks ago, authorities caught 6 crew members under the influence of alcohol, steering a boat in the waters around Korea. But even out of the sea waters, more trouble. Last month, authorities found 17 sailors steering ships with illegal licenses. In the past 5 years alone, here in Korea, about 600 people were found dead or missing from maritime accidents, most of them caused by human error. From 2009 to 2013, there were about 1,400 accidents at sea. And out of those, 82% were caused by the crew. Safety violations and negligence were the cause for most of the accidents. Regardless, in those cases, the penalties for the crew would be considered light by most. Most of them were let off with just a warning, while others were suspended from work. Not a single one of the crew members had their licenses revoked. Year after year, light punishments for the many accidents in Korean waters. And now, with Korea's biggest maritime accident in decades at the fore, questions are being raised about whether it's finally time to take sea safety more seriously. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
The bodies that have been recovered from the Sewol-ho ferry are transferred either to hospitals or funeral halls. More are being released to their families today. Our Shin Se-min is out at one of the hospitals in Ansan that is receiving the dead. Se-min, what's the latest from where you are?
Yes, a total of 11 bodies have been released today just from the city of Ansan here, and 5 of those students released from this location at Korea University Ansan Hospital. One after another, more victims come and go, and just an hour ago, 2 more victims have arrived, the bodies of Tanon High School students with the surname Oh and another unknown. But not much else has been released about the identity of the students, and that brings a total number of victims lying here at 8. Officials here at the funeral hall say that 4 more bodies are on its way tonight. And as more victims arrive, more mourners after mourners are visiting the funeral hall to pay respect. On Wednesday, 25 more bodies are expected to be released at 8 different funeral halls in Ansan. In a briefing held by the hospitals hours ago, officials here say that they're reviewing the possibility of releasing inpatients depending on their conditions. Now, this comes as the hospital has been saying that most of the patients' physical and mental conditions had improved since they were brought to the hospital the first day. And earlier today, parents of the students made an appeal at the Ansan Office of Education, urging for swift rescue operations and also criticizing the media for its indiscriminate reports on the tragic accident. And they also asked for all of society to help them pass through this very difficult time.
Se-min, we hear that memorial altars are being set up in the city of Ansan so people can pay their last respects to those who have passed.
That's right. A temporary altar is expected to be ready by sometime tomorrow in the morning on Wednesday at around 9 o'clock. And this memorial hall is still in the process of being set up at the Ansan Olympic Memorial Hall, just about 10 minutes away from here. So friends and relatives will be able to pay tribute to those who have passed. And as the families of the victims wish to hold the memorial altar for all of those who have passed, the city of Ansan said Tuesday that they have decided to build a memorial altar at the Hwarang Recreation Park for all of those who have lost their lives. And not only here in Ansan, but also in the city of Incheon, from where the Sewol-ho ferry had left the shore, another group memorial altar will be set up at the International St. Mary's Hospital, which is where 7 other recovered bodies are being held. And that's all for now, and this has been Shin Se-min reporting live from Korea University Ansan Hospital.
Okay, thank you, Se-min, for that. Korean celebrities are also doing their part to help the victims of the Sewol-ho ferry disaster, and LA Dodgers pitcher Kim Hyun-bin is one of them. He held a special autograph session with all proceeds going to the survivors and families of the deceased. Kim Min-ji has the details.
A long line of baseball fans gather in front of Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, where pitcher Kim Hyun-bin is signing autographs to raise funds to support the victims of the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. Korean-American fans who took part in the event said they wanted to help out in any way they could.
It's sad and very depressing. It must be a hard time, but I hope the families do not lose hope.
It was a sentiment shared by all who were there.
Oh, just devastation towards the families, especially when you're talking about such young victims, high schoolers that were on that boat. It's very tragic.
Ryu said that he was keeping up with the news out of Korea, adding that his thoughts were with the victims and their families. He also put up a sign on his locker that read "Sewol 4/16/14" in tribute. Ryu has already donated $100,000 through his HJ99 Foundation, earmarked for the Sewol-ho ferry disaster.
I'm hoping for good news. Please take care.
Other Korean celebrities have also been making donations. Figure skating star Kim Hyun-bin gave some $100,000 through UNICEF and tweeted that she prays for a miracle. A list of actors have also made contributions, big and small, while some have delivered relief goods to the harbor and auditorium where families have been staying. And all this to express one message, that the families and friends of this horrible disaster are not alone in this very difficult time. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korea isn't alone in handling the monumental task of combing the Sewol-ho ferry for survivors and bodies. With U.S. President Barack Obama scheduled to visit Seoul later this week, Washington has made all of its resources in the region available to Korean authorities and has even offered to help determine the cause of the accident. Connie Kim explains.
The U.S. remains at the ready to help Korea in this very difficult time. The Pentagon said Monday that the Navy salvage ship USS Safeguard is now sailing to the waters of Korea in case Seoul asks for help with salvage operations once they begin. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board has also pledged to help investigators determine what caused the ferry to sink if requested. The U.S. Navy ship USS Bunhammer Shar, which was conducting routine patrols in Korean waters last week, is already on the disaster site along with its helicopters. President Barack Obama, who is scheduled to arrive in Seoul for a two-day visit later this week, has pledged full support in the ongoing search and rescue operations. The presidential advisor, Ben Rhodes, said this week during a press briefing that the Sewol-ho ferry disaster will take priority during Obama's trip to Seoul. In addition to the Sewol-ho disaster, President Obama and President Park Geun-hye are also expected to discuss North Korea's nuclear program. Rhodes said the door to dialogue remains open for Pyongyang so long as the regime is ready and willing to denuclearize. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
And speaking of which, with President Barack Obama arriving in Seoul this Friday, North Korea is showing signs that it may be preparing for a fourth nuclear test. South Korean Defense Ministry spokesman Kim Hyun-bin said Tuesday that increased movement has been detected at the Punggye-ri nuclear test site. He added that Pyongyang is at a stage where it could carry out a nuclear test at any time. South Korea and U.S. forces are closely monitoring the situation, and the South's Defense Ministry and the Joint Chiefs of Staffs have also set up an integrated crisis management task force to prepare for a possible test. Experts have speculated recently that a fourth nuclear test could be in the works ahead of Obama's visit to Tokyo and Seoul this week. And on the eve of U.S. President Barack Obama's visit to Japan, a group of nearly 150 lawmakers paid respects to the controversial Yasukuni War Shrine for its annual spring festival. The group, composed of legislators from several parties and at least one cabinet minister, made the visit Tuesday, drawing strong rebuke from both Korea and China. Korean Foreign Ministry spokesperson Cho Tae-young described the trips as deplorable and an anachronistic act that undermines stability in the region. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said earlier that the visits were an individual matter of personal religious freedom and not something the government should interfere with. We now connect live to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, what's the latest?
Sean, rescue operations are proceeding with few difficulties due to the weather thanks to the mild conditions. Well, at the moment, it's about 13.1 degrees with misty air. Strong winds are blowing at a rate of 6.7 meters per second, but that is not an issue as waves remain fairly calm at about 0.4 meters. Today through Thursday is when the speed of tidal currents drop to their slowest. Until now, tidal currents moved at a rate of about 2.8 meters per second, but during a neap tide, that should drop to a meter per second. The speed of tidal currents should slow down to as slow as half a meter per second during these 4 times tomorrow, so operations should speed up during then. Otherwise, the weather outlook on Jindo for tomorrow looks to be more mild than today. Wave heights will fall to half a meter with wind speeds at 4 to 7 meters per second. Well, that's all the weather updates for Jindo I have for you at this hour, and I'll be back with the latest after 10.
Thanks, Bo-kyung. And that's all we have for you at this hour. Stay with us for more on Day 7 of the sunken ferry search efforts on our next newscast. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.